Well, NFC East. Welcome back to Respectability. You finally have a team above 500 that is leading the division. I'm talking about you, Philadelphia Eagles, winners of 3 straight, 6-5 record. But is it too soon to celebrate? You are listening to the Coffeehouse Quarterback podcast on the Outside Analysis, outsideanalysis.com. I am the Coffeehouse Quarterback. I will dish on the Eagles in just a moment. But first, the final unbeaten team in the NFL went down. I'm talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, who traveled to Denver after a bye week, where they had to face Peyton Manning and that vaulted Denver Broncos offense. Peyton Manning looked sharp as usual. The running game was strong, better than what I expected. The Broncos were able to move the ball against a vaulted Kansas City Chiefs defense. But at the end of the day, home field advantage is a wonderful thing. The Broncos came out of there with a victory, 27-17, setting up for a pivotal Week 13 showdown at Arrowhead Stadium. The rest of the AFC, it's a little strange because you have the Cincinnati Bengals, who are clearly the class of the AFC North. You have both AFC West teams, the Broncos and the Chiefs, they're battling. Gonna leave that alone. The Indianapolis Colts, they're back after a dreadful loss a couple of weeks ago to the St. Louis Rams. They bounced back by beating Tennessee, and they have a stranglehold on the division. That's not a problem. Their positions are set. When you look at the AFC breakdown, 5 teams look very solid at making the playoffs. Guaranteed to get a wild card spot, barring injury, are the loser, the team left out of the division crown between the Broncos and the Chiefs. If the playoffs started today, guess who is the owners of the final wild card spot in the AFC? You guessed it. The New York Jets, Jets. Quiet as it's kept. There is a team challenging, charging, playing very good football at a very good time. Getting my Pennsylvania teams mixed up. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers. 4-6, 6 games remaining. They somewhat control their destiny with 2 games against the Cleveland Browns. They have a game against the Cincinnati Bengals. They have a game against the Miami Dolphins. And sandwiched in all of that is a game with the struggling Green Bay Packers, who may or may not have an Aaron Rodgers back. Now, a lot of that will depend on Aaron Rodgers' health. A lot of that may depend on where the Packers stand when it comes to the division. Whether or not he's healthy and ready to return might be irrelevant. The Packers may decide to set everything down, close up shop, and focus on developing some of their younger players. And if that's the case, it's not out of the ordinary to assume that Pittsburgh couldn't go on a run and win 5 of their last 6 games. 9-7 could be a guaranteed place for that final AFC wildcard spot. Now in the NFC, clearly the class of the NFL, the class of the conference is the Seattle Seahawks. They're 10-1, but they have a couple of tough games coming up. One, they have to face San Francisco in San Francisco. That's going to be very difficult. That's a tall task for any team, no matter how badly the 49ers are struggling at this point. Going into San Fran, trying to come out of there with a victory. Who knows whether or not San Francisco is going to have their act together. At the same time, a couple of different storylines may have developed by then. San Francisco currently 6-4. They could be looking at playing for their playoff lives. It's almost like kicking a dying dog. Turn around, a dog jumps up and bites you in the arse. We could have plenty of problems. But before they even think about looking ahead to the San Francisco game in week 14, they have the New Orleans Saints in week 13 after coming back from a bye week. The Saints, 8-2, looking very good, looking like the second best team right now in the NFC. Looking very formidable, but I'm going to hold my enthusiasm for the Saints. Not that they haven't proved anything, because they proved enough. They have a very strong team in their division in the Carolina Panthers that they're going to have to worry about. They faced the Panthers twice. And if they can get past the Panthers twice, clearly they have the outside chance of getting home field advantage. But all roads lead up to Seattle. If any team is capable of taking out Seattle in their house, the Saints can do it. In the NFC North, you have the Bears and the Detroit Lions tied at the top. Both teams are 6-4. The Lions own the tiebreaker, having 2 victories over the Bears. This division is going to come down to a war of attrition. Pretty much whoever can survive their schedule should be and will be crowned the NFC North division winner. 9 times out of 10, the team that loses out in the division race will probably be on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs. Seeing that either Carolina or the Saints will have a very good chance of nabbing one of those wild card spots. Then out in the NFC West, you have a San Francisco 49ers, previously spoken of, 6-4. Look out for the Arizona Cardinals. They're 6-4. They got a very strong defense. Carson Palmer starting to resemble the Carson Palmer of old. And lo and behold, they're developing a strong running game there. But looking at the NFC North, things look a little difficult for Detroit on the surface because they have a hot Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, winners of 2 in a row next week. They have a Green Bay Packers game after a short layoff on Thanksgiving Day. That's going to be huge. That possibly could mark the day of Aaron Rodgers' return. Everything's uncertain. Everything's been quiet up in Lambeau, up in Green Bay. After that, they have a hot Philadelphia Eagles, then the Baltimore Ravens, who are probably going to be fighting for their playoff lives. A New York Giants team that's going to get on them in a moment. And then they close out the season with Minnesota. The Bears, a little bit of a different story. As far as similar opponents, they do face the Green Bay Packers, but that's not until the final game of the season. Before that, they have a St. Louis Rams team who is beatable. They have a Minnesota Vikings team who, with Adrian Peterson, will always be formidable. And as brutally awful as that run defense has been for the Bears, a running back of Adrian Peterson's pedigree should be able to gash that defensive line up. Quiet as it's kept, though, Peterson is the only running back that the Bears have held under 100 yards all season. or at least the Vikings as a team, they've held in check all season. After that, they have a very formidable foe with the Dallas Cowboys. Then they travel off to Cleveland and Philadelphia. 2 games they should be able to split. And then they come back home for the finale with Green Bay. Nothing's guaranteed, but whichever team survives, their schedule will more than likely win that division. Now, I must bring the attention to the NFC East. Welcome back. Welcome back to respectability. Welcome back to a place where you belong. Don't get on my singing. Philadelphia, they should be giddy right now. They're top of the division, 6-5. But they only hold a half-game lead over the Dallas Cowboys, who were out with a bye week. So that division lead could disappear come Sunday. Look out for those pesky New York Giants, though. After starting off the season 0-6, clearly the laughingstock of the league through 6 weeks, the Giants have reeled off 4 wins in a row. And they kind of control their destiny, in a sense. They have Dallas coming up. Then they travel to Washington. Then they travel to San Diego. San Diego's a pretty good team. Washington's reeling right now. They're going to have a very tough game versus Seattle. But what works in the Giants' favor is the Seattle Seahawks have to travel cross-country to New York or New Jersey for a 12 noon Central Standard Time, that is, road game versus the Giants. Then the Giants travel to Detroit. After that, they host the Redskins for one more game at home. After being the league's laughingstock for 6 weeks, could the Giants be the dark horses of the NFC East? Not out of the question. It's not out of the ordinary. What hurts their cause is the fact that although they split the games with Philadelphia, they no longer have Philadelphia remaining on their schedule. Looking at that division, let's take a look at who the Eagles have left. They have a very strong Arizona Cardinals team coming up after the bye week. Right after that Cardinals team, they have Detroit, Minnesota, the Bears, Dallas. Again, they have that home game coming out of the bye week, 2 consecutive home games. That final game of the season, you might want to pencil that. Keep an eye on that game because that game could decide the division for 3 teams. Let's take a look at the Cowboys schedule. Cowboys, who had a bye week this week, they have a very tough game versus the Giants coming up. That's not going to be a gimme. It's in MetLife Stadium. The Giants hot right now. Again, winners of 4 straight. They could really get on a roll, honestly. But going back to the Cowboys, after the Giants, they have Oakland, they have the Bears, Green Bay, Washington, then that game that I said pencil in or circle around, the Philadelphia Eagles. Who takes that division? Let's just say if it were up to me and I were to make that prediction, I wouldn't say it here. I'll hint that it might not be the team that you think. Well, that's all that I have for today. This is the Coffeehouse Quarterback. I'm getting ready to get myself another cup of coffee. I hope that you all have enjoyed this podcast, the Coffeehouse Quarterback, from the Outside Analysis, outsideanalysis.com. I am signing out.